Hello and welcome to your daily lunchtime show where we catch up on current events and headlines. My name is Glenn Rashipura and this is NMH at 1. In incoming news this morning, the Phuket Mega Build Tour de Windhoek was launched this morning with some of the finest cyclists in contention for the top honors. The competition will kick off on 17 February and will end on the 20th. Coach of the men's national cycling team, Hans du Toit, is confident that Namibia will emerge victorious.
Okay, I'm Hans du Toit. I'm the national coach for the Namibian cycling team, also on the NCF. We're looking forward to a great event in Namibia, the Phuket Tour de Windhoek, with some exciting races coming from South Africa and really our own riders that is in good shape. Looking forward to see the performances for them and how they will perform for the rest of the year with the Commonwealth Games in this year as well.
Okay, you spoke about excitement about the team. Who are some of the guys that we can expect, especially from our own Namibian team, to actually give a good challenge to the South Africans?
Well, I'm hoping not leaving someone out, but there's definitely Alex Miller. There's a young up-and-coming Hugo Hahn. Then we have Drickus, Kutsia. We have Dan Craven, which has to confirm his participation in the race, but hopefully we can have him here. His experience in helping other Namibian riders in a race like this is really of great value.
Great. How important is an event like the Tour de Windhoek, especially to cyclists that have always been aspiring to win tough competitions? How important is this tournament?
Road cycling in Namibia is even in Southern Africa is very isolated. So having an event where we can get countries together to race, especially from South Africa, which is one of our big competitors, and a country that does well on the world circuit, it's very important. Exposing these athletes to this quality of races is a step up towards the right direction for their performances in future races like Olympics and Commonwealth Games.
Okay. Thank you so much, Coach.
Thanks.
As from next week, we'll start delving into the COVID-19 figures again more deeply. But here's a telling statistic that dates back to the 17th of January 2022. On that day, we reported 139 new cases out of 1,263 tests analyzed. Omusati region accounted for 46% of the cases that amounted to 64 among Sandi, Okahau, Oshikuku, and Otapi. Add to that total the 27 cases of Oshana region and the single case of Ahangwena, as well as the single case of Maheke, and you'll arrive at the conclusion that 67% of all the cases have been found in the 4O regions. Now, these results are often distorted on account of a lag after the weekend, but the most interesting part is that not a single new COVID-19 case can be ascribed to a person that had previously been vaccinated. So the truth is simple. Get vaccinated so as to lessen the chance of you ending up in a hospital. Nobody has ever guaranteed that you will not get infected after all, but at least you have a tremendously better chance of neither being hospitalized nor worse, dying of COVID-19. And now, from our video news from around the country. The Namibian National Students Organization unveiled 2 vehicles yesterday to be used by the organization to carry out its official duties. Former NANSO member Herman Walter Ratz engages the audience and members, thanking all involved. Lucian Dishishi ends off with a NANSO song. Janata Diergat was there.
We are celebrating our shareholders' achievement. Now, based on the directives and the law, Namibia, the Ministry of Fisheries have been encouraging right holders for the longest of time to actually play their role in uplifting and improving living conditions of Namibians. So you will remember or recall that last year, Honorable Derek Classen has made a call to the right holders that he does not want to see food hampers any longer. He wants genuine corporate social responsibility programs being run by right holders. Now, this event of today is a demonstration. We are demonstrating, and it's a testimony that social partner investment has answered the call of the ministry and the Namibian people who for so long have not been genuinely receiving what they deserve. So social partner, as a special purpose vehicle, has declared some dividends to its shareholder, and that has enabled NANSO to procure these two vehicles, which are not for individual beneficiaries, but entirely for the Namibian child. And as the saying goes, to whom much is given, much is expected. So as social partners, in as much as we have enabled NANSO, we want to see these vehicles moving.
With the assistance of the acting vice president, I would like for us to sing the song that goes, oh, we are coming together, student body, we are NANSO,
Oh Nanso yetu hai Nanso Nanso baba Nanso Oh Nanso yetu hai
In our second video, Landers People's Movement Councillor Ivan Skrever says that the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development should come to the party with regards to high water bills that local authorities owe NamWater. He spoke to Ogonet Lacha.
In itself. But what we are dealing with now is the minister. We want an urgent meeting of the minister so that the minister and the ministry can come on board with regards to the free water provision. We are not, and it must go on record, the councillors and the council and the city of Windhoek is not in favor of disconnection of the free water provision towards the informal settlement and inhabitants of city of Windhoek. But there is a responsibility on the part of the minister and the ministry also. As much as they were involved in giving the directive to the city, beyond the directive, somebody needs to come back and say, this is the financial implications caused by the directive. What do we do going forward? It can't be the city of Windhoek alone when it comes to the financial implications because of a directive that was.
In our third and final video for the day, Maxi Lewis, the director of the Namibian Association of CBRRM Support Organization, talked to us about the success and challenges of Namibia's community-based natural resource management. This video is by January Smith.
I'm really fortunate because I started very much as a young person participating in this program, and I was in my late 20s. And I remember in the northwest of the country, there was very few wildlife at the time when we started this program. And our communities were very much anti-wildlife because of the human-wildlife conflict issues, but also because of the poaching issues that were happening in the region, and the families sometimes being felt that government was very unfair with them in terms of some of the, wildlife challenges and so forth. And then I saw a progression from communities voluntarily accepting living with wildlife outside parks. I saw wildlife increasing. I saw people getting benefits from wildlife, and especially from sustainable use. That was a big thing. People getting meat, people getting money. And so for me, those are things that I've seen with my own eyes, that I experienced myself, and that has changed a lot of the landscapes. And because I work over 20 years in the Kunene area, I saw a landscape starting from very few animals into a landscape where we are now, actually having so much animals that it caused a lot of conflicts. These communities are voluntarily looking after species that are very important for the world. They look, I mean, the rhinos are important. They are nearly extinct. Where is the majority of those rhinos living? In the Northwest, where people are looking after them. So I think we should be very appreciative of what they are doing, because they are looking after certain things that they should have been extinct by now. Because living with wildlife, for these communities, there's a price to pay. What is these prices? Our kids cannot go to school because there could be an elephant waiting from them. There have been people killed. They destroy people's livelihood. So we have all these challenges that that are around. But we also need to understand that people used to live with wildlife before. So this is not very strange. Traditionally, people used to live with these animals. But because of some of the colonial policies that was inaugurated around the time, a lot of this wildlife was removed then into protected areas, which is what is now known as parks. And so people did not have that interaction anymore with wildlife. And now it's coming back. People starting to understand what is an elephant, what is movements of lions, how, all these things are just coming back. And we have just implemented this project for over 27 years. It's a very short period of time to be able to really have people being very much in acceptance of this type of wildlife. But that does not mean that this is a program that is perfect. So I think what people also need to understand is that this program actually started merely as a wildlife program. And for the first maybe 10 years, we implemented it as a purely wildlife program. So we did not really envisage issues around governance. So we struggled with those issues in terms of governance, and that is a bigger one. And we started addressing that. So for me, governance is a big one, and we still need to work on that one, and we continue to work on that one. So the other one is just that it's not a program that was set up to address all the rural problems that we are facing in Namibia. One of the biggest challenges is benefits. Even within the program, we are not able to make sure that we accrue all the benefits in the whole of the rural area. Yes, we should do better in trying to make sure that those benefits really accrue to the people on the ground, because that also has been our own criticism. It's a weakness that we need to work on, that we need to strengthen our governance systems to make sure that at least we make sure that most of the benefits actually accrue to those ones that are impacted, especially by human-wildlife conflict, or impacted by drought, or impacted. That is something that I think as a program we continue to address. I think as Namibians, and I always try to encourage Namibians, that we have done a superb job. And I think we should applaud ourselves in terms of that we have kept wildlife on our lands. And it doesn't matter whether you live in communal land. It doesn't matter whether you live on a farm. I'm so proud as a Namibian that we have this wildlife and resources on our land, and we are keeping it for ourselves, and we are managing it in a sustainable way. And I think sometimes we don't think about it, because, and I can understand we are going through COVID, it's difficult, but we have done well.
And now for our front page news. The Allgemeine Zeitung today leads with the so-called tourism sector drive for COVID-19 vaccination that was launched by the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism jointly with its fellow Ministries of Health and Social Services, as well as Information and Technology. MEFT Minister Pohamba Shifeta gave some interesting visitor statistics, but the main aim of this new initiative is to encourage members of the tourism industry to get vaccinated in order to offer visitors a safe destination. In its lead article today, the Republican tells us more about American tourists that got stuck in the Lauwen River that flows south of Keetmanshoop. They called for help, which did arrive, but while they were still busy recovering the vehicle with the aid of a recovery vehicle, a flash flood caused them to grab their belongings and flee the river. Both vehicles were lost in the process, but at least no lives were lost. The Namibian Sun focuses in detail on a probe that blames government for the demise of the National Agriculture Initiative, known as Agribus Dev, it would seem as though the Ministry of Agriculture was bent on employing officials rather than seasoned business executives, which caused the downfall of the organization on account of simple mismanagement. The Namibian today leads with the same story as the Algemene Zeitung, placing more emphasis on the number of vaccinated people per country in Southern Africa and the fact that vaccine passports for access to businesses are likely to become a reality, much like what is already a reality in many European countries. Today on its front page, the New Era takes a look at the controversial rating of D+ that the Namibian Central Bank Governor, Johannes Gavagab, was awarded by the Global Finance magazine. The Bank of Namibia, in the person of Bond spokesperson Kadembira Dembruka, has in the meantime criticized the report as being inconsistent and fundamentally flawed. The Market Watch had already reported on Monday that the Global Finance magazine's banker report cards for 2021 awarded the rating of D+ to the Namibian governor of the central bank, Johannes Gavagab. That is the worst outcome for Namibian Reserve Bank governor yet. Now, Bank of Namibia has hit back, saying that the actions of the central bank and the performance by the governor should not be gauged against the overall macroeconomic conditions of a country. Blaming the report cards to be subjective, it seems odd when the institution led by the man in question jumps to its defense. One would expect Gavagab to do so himself instead of using the organization that he leads to supposedly issue an objective statement. Quite apart from the fact that Namibia was happy for many years to accept these ratings by Global Finance when the outcome suited its political agenda. In its lead article, the NMH supplement Business 7 today looks at a COVID-19 scarred economy riddled by risk. Joe Murray Doody tells us that thousands of Namibians make up part of the 51 million people on the planet that have been affected by the plunging economy, which downturn has been caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Citing the report by the World Economic Forum, the article delves into the employment situation, digital inequality, economic stagnation and debt, as well as effects of climate change. And now let's have a look at the inside pages. On its second page, the Algemene Zeitung focuses on the November report in which two journalists ended up condemning the Namibian Community-Based Natural Resource Management Program, CBNRM, and calling for a total ban on hunting. This flies in the face of Namibia's principle of applying sustainable hunting as a means to ensure that communities want to remain engaged with conservation initiatives that will provide them with income. The AC has found a report that shows that Namibia's environmental efforts relative to the rest of the world is still enormous, proving the damning report by journalists Adam Cruz and Izzy Sazada to be incomplete, not to say following a hidden agenda. Republican on its page 3 brings a review of the first 3 months of what would normally be termed the rain season, 2021 to 2022. With all the pomp and expectation raised by various weather experts last year, it now turns out that the first 3 months' downpours did not amount to much, thus leaving the country with a massive shortfall of this. Especially the western region have had virtually no rain to date. The Namibian Sun on its page 3 reports that the SWAPO Party Youth League is giving its former Secretary for Economic Affairs, Maurice Shea, a cold shoulder. Shea in December accused the SPYL of being gripped with jealousy and a hunger of positions. This apparently did not go down well. The previously ex-secretary wrote an open letter to SPYL Secretary Ephraim Nekongo, who is now adamant that he will not react to a letter that was addressed at the public rather than the Central Committee. The Namibian on its page 3 brings an interesting aspect as it quotes the leader of the opposition party, Independent Patriots for Change, IPC, Paduleni Itula, who seems to take a new direction in his approach to politics. Among Namibian opposition politicians, it seems to be a habit of principally criticizing governments without coming up with solutions. Now, Itula has expressed the opinion that Namibia's challenges cannot be solved by a single political party, but rather by moving away from principal partisan politics. He seems to seek political cooperation among all parties for the greater good of Namibia. Under the heading, Parents Concerned About Cohort System, the new era on page 3 focuses on the fact that not all schools have as yet returned to full-time as well as full capacity schooling, contrary to what the government has declared as its goal in order to reinstate some form of normalcy. It will seem as though some schools persist in allowing a defined number of children to attend school, while a second group stays at home and is allowed back in school over a second week, at which time the first group has to stay away. People are concerned about the impact that this will have on the education of their kids. And with that, we have reached the end of our show. From me, Glenn Rashipura, please do join me again tomorrow, same time, same place. But before that, up next, the weather.